check out the Patreon and gain access to all the source code. Hey, welcome to a new video in the Paragon System tutorial series. This is part 12, so let's get right into it. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna work on the server files for the Paragon System. So open your Paragon System file, the one inside your server, Lua scripts, and then the Paragon System. So first off, let's actually add some more here. So we are just making some new lines. Then what we want to do is we want to get the config file that we created in the start of the series. So here we want to say Paragon System underscore config, because the config we created in the folder here. So we are getting this file, and we are just doing this because then we can write a config file and get data there. So next thing is that we want to do some extra things here. So since we want to also get the database file we made, so the Paragon System underscore DB, we would need to get that too, which is we will just add it up here. So local, or no, we will actually keep it down here after loading Eluna. So here, then db functions equals require Paragon System and then underscore db. So now we got that file too. Next up, let's create our tables for holding the players that logs in, holding the level details from the database we will get, and then holding the script spell list. So let's start on that. So players equals and an empty table, so code brackets. Then level details equals and the code brackets, so an empty table. Then spell list equals and code bracket. Now we got the tables here. Just do like this. Now we got our tables. Next, what we want to do is we want to make the function for adding the player once they join or log into the server. So that's function add player. And here we want to give it the player. Next, we want to store in a local variable. We want to call it GUID. We want to store the player's GUID, which is player, then colon, get GUID low. And you can find all the data, or not the data, but all the documentation on Eluna. So get GUID low. So you can see here, object, which is a player is also an object. So next, what we want to do now is that we want to get some raw data from the database. So we haven't set these functions up yet, but I will just write them so we have them ready when we do set them up. The raw data equals db functions dot load player from database, and we give it the GUID. Reason we give it the GUID is because when it needs to load from the database, it needs to know which row to select, which is the GUID it should select from. So it finds the character from the GUID. Next, make a new local data converted, and set it equals to raw data colon get row. The reason we do this is because this function, when we make it, the function will just return us the data from the database. Then we get the row, and that is built. So like getting the row so when you get a row using the get row, it's converted automatically into a table for us, so we don't need that much stuff. So we don't need to like set here and go through every single detail. So using the get row, you get it as a table already, which is so great because then we can just add it to the players or player list and then save it or keep it under the key of UID, which we'll be doing now. So down here you'll say players, and then in here you'll say UID. So that means when we do this, as we will be doing now, so we set this players and then UID, so it's a key in a table, and we set it equals to, so our data value would be the data converted. So like that. And next, what we want to do is that we want to set the local XP required equals to our level details, and inside here we would say data converted dot level, so we get the level from the database. So, and then we want to get the XP required field from the database, from the row here we have here. After that, we can print it. So here we can just say player data, an arrow, then dot data converted dot, let's print just the level so we can like test it out. So now pretty much all is done here, but we still need one thing more. Since when it adds to the player list, we want to send an AIO handle, so a call to the client, sending the client add-on all the data inside here, so the data field here. So let's do that. AIO got handle, and in here player, since we have the player from the argument. Then when you're sending to something like an add-on, you need to always set the player. When you send from the server to the player, it needs to know the player. It should give this data to the player. And here is the handle name, and it's again important that it's the same as in our client. So that's Paragon System AIO, and then comma, and now the function inside the client add-on is what we will be calling when this goes through, and I will call that receive. I think that's spelled correctly. Let me just receive player data, and then the data we want to send is the data converted, so we sent the whole table, and then the XP required. So now we basically set up how we would send the player's data to the client. So this is our add player function, which is called down here. So let's just real quick set that up. So here, instead of this testing we did, we want to remove that in the onPlayer login, and then we will just say add player, and we will say we want to send the player with it. So now when a player logs in, it goes into the database when we make this function, and then loads everything and puts the data out for us. So what we can do now is that we could test this, and I would actually like to first test it so you can see that it works. But one thing I would always recommend you do, you don't need to, that's why I didn't do it, but I would recommend you to do it so there is no like possibility for an error. That is, if you do here, so if, and here you would say player. So we are checking if the player is valid. So I will just make a comment about is player valid. I don't know how to spell, but yeah, probably that's correct. And in here you would move the add player inside this. The reason we are doing this is because then if the player is valid, so if it is a player object in the code, then it can add the player. Otherwise, no, it shouldn't do it. So we would like to do an else and say print. For some reason, the player object is not valid. So this should probably never happen, but it's always great to like have error handling, you could say. So next, now we can actually try it out and see how it works. So what we first want to do is we want to go back to our folder because we need still to create DB, so the database function for all of this. So let's go ahead and do that, just so we can test it out in this video and you can see it working and you can get an understanding of how everything works together. So here, what you would like to do is, first off, I forgot about something which is also important. We need to load the level details because we are trying to like get into our level details table with the level, which is the key. So we need to first load that, which is always a great idea to do, and then we load the player. So that's what we'll be doing here. So first off, make a function, call it load levels from database, like this. Next, you write local SQL query. I think that's how you spell it. Probably, yeah, probably great enough. It doesn't matter how you spell it here when you make variables, but always great to like just like spell it correctly if you know how to spell it. And then you write, and this is important because this is MySQL queries, so this is how you could like get stuff from a database. So it's important that select is in uppercase and then the multiply sign, and then from is in uppercase again, and then you would write Paragon underscore system underscore levels. Sorry. Yeah. So this is the name we gave our table that holds the levels inside it. So that's important that it's correct. Next, you hit space, and then you say order in uppercase by with uppercase, and then level. And level is the column inside our database, so the level column. And the last thing is ASC. So that's all for like building our selection of getting all. So the multiply sign means that you get everything from the table. Otherwise, you could get selected. You could only select a few columns you would like. So if you only wanted like the experience required, you would write that here. But later, like in upcoming tutorials, we will actually need to do that later down the line. So right now, all this does is that it selects all the levels from our database ordered by level ascending order. I think that's ASC is, I think it's ascending. And next, all we're gonna do is local result equals, and then now we want to talk to the database. So what you would do is you go under the documentation for SylCore, the Eluna SylCore. Then you go up here, then you say, since we want to talk with the database, you would write char, so character, char here. And then you would find the one called char db query asynchronous. You could use that. But as you might read here, you see it executes and passes. So this is executed while keeps running while the query is executed in parallel, and results are passed through callback function. Well, if you want them to be like, normally I will always use this. So maybe it's better to like use the other ones, but I've never really used them. And for me, I've never had a problem just using these and not the asynchronous. I would recommend later down the line, if you put in like if you want to make bigger system that you want to use on bigger servers, I would probably go for the job DB query asynchronous and learn more about that. But this is only a tutorial, and it's to teach in a beginner friendly way. So as you see here, you don't need like I wrote inside our file here. You see, I wrote result. You don't need to call it that. That's just like an idea of how it works. So what you want to do is get this jar db query, then you put it in here, then inside with the argument you will send the SQL query. So that means we built the selection or the way to connect and talk with the database here to select everything inside Paragon System levels. Then you call the database executing this to get all the levels and the data from Paragon System _ levels. Then you store it inside the results. So now what do we want to do so now we store all the rows and stuff inside of result. So next, what we want to do is we want to make a safe way to get this. So we will say if not result. So if nothing is inside the result, we should print couldn't load levels like this. Otherwise, oh yeah, we want to return here, my bad. So after that, we want to write repeat until, so it will make it here. Inside here, you will write local level equals result colon get u int 32, and you say 0. Reason we are saying 0 is because when you get something from the database, the first column will always be 0, because in programming you normally start counting from 0 and then up. You never start at 1. But in Lua you sometimes start at 1. So it can get a little confusing. So that stores the level of this row we are inside right now. Or this result, you could say. The repeat basically goes over all the rows, each of them, and stores. So we'll write local xp required and set it equals to result colon get u and 32 and 1. And then what we want to do is that we want to add it to the level details table, where we want to give it the key of level, which is our level, so 1, then it knows that it would be just the XP required. Then set it equals to new table basically, and then XP required equals to, and here it's important that you make sure that you spell XP, so XP in uppercase with an R in uppercase too. This is just so we keep a consistent naming scheme. And then it should be equals to the XP required. Now, that's basically all for this. So we would say until not result next row. So what this means is that it will repeat. So think about it as a looping. So if you have a stack of books and you take each book and then read page 1. So we would read page 1, then we'll go to the next one. So when you say until not resolved next row, that will mean, okay, we are at the last book. Is there any more books in the stack? Okay, there isn't, then we stop. That's what this means, basically. Next, what we just want to do is tell in the server console that, hey, all levels have been loaded. So we will do loaded all levels, and then $sign D levels, or not levels, we don't really need that, then space, comma, hashtag level detail. And again, level details with the hashtag is to get the size of the table. So now that's all added. So next we will go over just quickly. Let's actually, let's go in and test this, so you can see how it would work. Just getting the levels from the database, and then I think now that I see the time on the video, I think I will need to cut it up so we get the, what is it called, the player next time, because we also need to first create them and everything. So we can't really do everything in this video, sadly. So what I will just do here is that first off, I wanna, we don't want to call this right now because that would give an error when we go in game. So what I want to do is that on level, not on level, but on player login, we'll just load the database with the levels. So functions colon load levels from database. So here we call the function to load all the levels from the database. So we do all of this and then we print the levels. So let's try this out. So let's go in game. So let's see here. And we can open up the database while we wait for the server and stuff to start up here. And then I can show you. So you see here. So what we should be getting now is that we should be getting 3 tables. So now the server started up, and it will tell us inside the console here. Let me just go in on another character. Oh, you see, we actually did I did a little error in the code, which is nothing new. So let's see here. Oh, I know what I forgot. So sorry about that. At the bottom of all your files here, you will always need to return them, and that's just my bad. So down here, you would need to return the function. So load levels from database equals load levels from database. Now save it, go into your console, write reload Eluna, hit enter, and then now when we go in game, click enter. Let's back out and log in again, and now you see 3. So everything here works now. So we got everything, and I don't actually know why I even wrote the % D. Maybe I'm just getting a little tired right now. So, but yeah, you can see we got 3, and that matches with our database since we have 3. So that works, everything works now. Now we are actually moving into loading stuff from the database into our Paragon system. And the next video we will actually do, so you can create your, the player gets created in the database, and we will load the data to the player, and then we'll try and print it so you can see that everything works, and I will explain some more there. So I hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one.